Greetings, folks. Sealer here. Today's replay is courtesy of James EMT, whom I featured on the channel before, and I'll leave a link to his previous replay in the description below. But for this match, I owe him an apology because he sent it over to me back in early March, and I kind of lost track of it with all of the other great content that folks had been sending to me. But fortunately, I have rediscovered this replay and I realized, yeah, I definitely need to get this out. This match has about as close of an ending in World of Warships as you can possibly have. So James is sailing for us the Tier 10 Royal Navy heavy cruiser HMS Goliath in a all Tier 10 domination match here on Northern Lights. Now, James Lott's build is pretty typical with a couple of notable observations. First of all, he uses the radio location skill, which I've seen more on close support cruisers like Minotaurs, Wistas, Des Moines, and so on. But James Lott is a big proponent of that skill, I think, for pretty much any upper tier cruiser. But maybe of greater note is his use of the survivability expert skill, which is something that is usually used mostly by destroyers. Now, what James Lott has pointed out to me is that when you combine the high initial health pool of the Goliath, which I think is 58,600, in combination with her super heal, gives her the survivability expert skill gives her an effective increase of over 8,000 hit points, which is a big deal as James Lott lands a nice double Citadel kill on the Smolensk. But like I said, yeah, it gives it over 8,000 more hit points. That's definitely going to work in James Lott's favor in this match. Now, I've obviously started this game a few minutes in because the initial going is a little slow, but now things have gotten a lot more interesting. So most of James Lott's team have lemminged to the west side of the map. They have, in fact, actually pushed up that flank and have taken Alpha, and so now they have two caps. But James Lott is basically the only thing that the Kremlin and Moskva that move down the 9 and 10 line can see, and so he is getting absolutely pounded here. I think the Moskva is probably doing more damage. He now has a triple fire. One of them has just gone out. His damage control is on cooldown, and he only has one repair party charge. And like I said, or has one left. And as I said, the use of the survivability expert skill is, I think, really going to work in his favor, or definitely is going to work in his favor in this match. So there, someone's calling target on the Kremlin, but frankly, I get the Moskva down first, reduce the number of guns on the in the opposing fleet. The Moskva is quite low health. Obviously, he's slowed here to avoid taking fire from other ships that may be on the south flank, like the Hindenburg. But unfortunately, the Kremlin seems to be firing quite high and mainly getting overpens on James Lott. So James Lott, frankly, I think has been taking more damage from the Moskva than anything else. Gets a few more shells on, and then with this next set of shells going out, he is going to finish off the Moskva for his second kill in the game. He's on fire again. His damage control is available to him. But I think he wanted to. Well, yeah, he just did use it. I think he was waiting for the last shells from the Moskva to come in so that he didn't end up using damage control too early and get set on fire another time. So obviously the Kremlin here is still targeting him, and I think the Kremlin is simply too close for James Lott to stop firing his guns, get into some concealment, and try to get away. I just think he's a little bit too close. So looking at the tactical situation, the Allies, like I said, do have two caps. They have a two-ship advantage right now. I don't think they're going to hold that for too much longer. I think there's an ally that is going to go down here quite soon. But the opposition is going to start pulling this back for their team as we wind on this map. Because what's happened here is that the Allies, in my opinion, are a little too spread out. And so you have a couple of ships in the north that are probably too isolated. And obviously, James Lott has been sort of the punching bag here on the south. His Hindenburg is moving forward and is probably going to start drawing some of the fire. In fact, James Lott is no longer being targeted. So it does seem that the Kremlin is going to be targeting the Hindenburg. But James Lott has no damage control party charges left, I'm sorry, repair party charges left. So this is the health that he has to work with is 23,000 for the rest of the game. And as I did say a couple of times, the survivability expert skill is going to pay off in his favor to help endure or work through the match. Hindenburg is closing in on the Kremlin. If I were playing the Hindenburg, this is not a charge I would attempt to make. The Kremlin can easily overmatch the bow and put the hurt on the Hindenburg. Obviously, the Tier 10 German heavy cruiser is very tanky, but it cannot tolerate well placed, high caliber shells like the Kremlin. Although the Kremlin has taken a pretty good beating here, and it does look like they are going to finish off the Kremlin. In fact, the Kremlin's burning in all locations in the map, and he does end up going down, but he looks like he took a pretty big chunk out of the Hindenburg just as he was going down. So looking back at tactical, allies have retained a 2-ship lead, although, okay, now just a 1-ship lead as the Montana that I think was more in the middle of the map has just been finished off. The opponents have taken the Charlie cap, so they're even on the caps, and they'll remain even on the point spreads here until caps either start getting contested further or other ships are sunk. So, in fact, speaking of which, the allies and opponents are now even with the Smolensk going down, and so the allies hold a slim lead. And it's anybody's game at this point. You see a ping on the map here. We've got a couple of allies that are way off on the one line. There's no way that they can be contributing because they can't see anything or very little on the north flank. The Des Moines that is here in the middle of the map on the west side of Charlie, they can't fire at, so that the Des Moines is putting, I think, fire on the Yoshino. Uh, I think he is putting fire on the Yoshino, and there's a call to have the Kurfürst that's in front of James Lott move up and put some pressure on the Des Moines, try to get him back off. Now, the opponents have moved back into Alpha. We don't see which ship it is. There is a Shimakaze that was last detected at Bravo 4. We don't know where he is. So I think it's likely that he is the ship that's moved into the Alpha Cap to retake it. And that, in conjunction with, the Harugumo on James Lott's team has moved into Delta and will, at least for the time being, take that cap. But what I think ends up happening is that the opponents end up moving back down the west flank, and they will eventually get control of 3 caps, and that's going to have a very significant influence on the path of this match. Now, for the last few minutes, James Lott has been sort of sailing back north to get back into a position where he can re-engage. The Goliath, one of the things that James Lott pointed out to me is that the Goliath, he I think originally did try running the ship with the gun and fire control systems upgrade in slot 6, which increases the range. But I think he found that the ballistics of the shells were too lofty. And so he elected to go back to the main battery modification 3 upgrade, which increases reload. But obviously there's a trade-off of less range. And so he has to get closer in before he's able to re-engage some of these ships over the last few minutes. The opponents have, in fact, like I said, taken Alpha. And in fact, we've also quickly or briefly spotted the Shimakaze that was on the southeast side of Alpha. And it looks like that destroyer is moving down, probably to put in an intercept on the Kurfürst that is on the south side of Bravo. Des Moines here is broadside to the Kurfürst. I don't remember if the Kurfürst is able to take him out or at least get some serious damage in on him. Okay, so James Lott has elected to come back over to Delta to defend this recently taken cap. There is a relatively low health Thunderer that's moving in to contest the cap. The Harugumo, in my opinion, is making a very good choice here to peel away because if the Thunderer had moved into the cap and the Harugumo attempted to stay in it, he likely would have been detected. And obviously the Thunderer has some very powerful artillery. And but there's a ping in the map for the Hindenburg. and James Lot to try to get some eyes on this Thunder so they can try to finish off the ship. Ergumo is asking for intelligence, which is he's basically asking for information about where the ship is, which is kind of ironic because the destroyers are traditionally the intelligence gatherers in games. Now, to James Lott's benefit, the Thunder has beached himself, and here comes what looks like an HE salvo from the Thunder onto James Lott. I don't remember if he gets any hits in. Yes, he gets quite a few. James Lott's going to put that fire out. He really does. But you can see now that there's this very focused pressure southward from the opponents coming through both the Charlie and now the Delta caps. The Thunder was taken down, which is good. But now the Hindenburg has moved into the cap. Hindenburg does not have the concealment to be able to stay in that cap and attempt to take it. I do think that he ends up pushing out of the cap, or maybe he gets taken down. In fact, he took a pretty serious chunk from James Lot in that last salvo, and so the Hindenburg is quite low. This should be in a place where both James Lot and his allied Hindenburg should be able to take down the opponent here in the cap relatively easily. In fact, we can see, oh yes, there he goes. Yes, the Hindenburg does take down his counterpart. So now there's another ping on the map. Here, this is where James Lot and his use of the radio location has come in very effective, because he's now gotten a bearing on the Shimakaze. Now, why the Shimakaze is detected here, I'm not sure. I don't know if I don't think he fired his guns. There, James Lot has just earned the Confederate achievement. Do see the torpedoes coming in already. Those were probably detected by hydro from the Hindenburg. I don't remember if I saw notice that the German cruiser had put up his hydro, but they're trying to. Yes, he does get the kill on the Shimakaze, so that's another clutch kill at this point. The Allies have gotten a one-ship advantage, but they are, in fact, like I said, losing Bravo. I'm not sure which ship is in the Bravo. It's probably one of the cruisers that has moved in. In fact, yeah, we now see the Yamato is on the south side of Alpha. And there's a call here to try to get the Charlie cap back. The Smolensk, this is the second of two that's on the opponent's team, is now on the north side of Delta. And so there's a call to try to get him finished off so that, again, the Allies can retain a ship lead and try to get some of these points back. Now the Allies are gonna start falling behind here under the current ship conditions and cap conditions, because each cap gains 4 points every 6 seconds. So the opponents having 3 caps to the Allies 1 means that they're going to be gaining at 80 points a minute. Now, they do take down the second of the 2 Smolensks that was north of Delta. So, again, that's worked in the Allies' favor here. They do have a 2-ship advantage, although the Hindenburg has just now gone down. He was, you can argue he might have been overextended. But here is where things are really crucial. The point gap is now only about less than 20 points, and they're down to the last 20 seconds of the match. And so I think James Lot at this point realizes, as long as he can get the kill on the Des Moines here in the waning seconds, he can win the match for the team. So he does steady his hand, and he sends the salvo out, and we're winding down here to literally the last few seconds of the match. And with 4 seconds remaining, he kills the Des Moines, giving the Allies a very close lead right at the end, and they do win the match. So very, very impressive outing. Great clutch kills at the end. So really well done, James Lot. I appreciate you sending this to me, and I apologize for not getting to this earlier. Almost 3,000 base XP in a tier 10 domination match here on Northern Lights. So I hope everybody enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do leave your comments below. And as always, we hope to see you out there on the virtual seas, and we wish you happy sailing.